Howdy folks, and welcome back to War Thunder with the mighty Jingles. There's a new micro patch out for War Thunder that's, well, I say micro patch, but a lot of people are very upset about the changes to research point gains for tanks. Apparently Gaijin thought that people were progressing too quickly with their tanks, so they've nerfed the rate at which ground force research points are gained, and that's got a lot of people upset. But I came to War Thunder today to take the aircraft out for a realistic battle, and the event that's running today is Pearl Harbour. I don't think I've seen the Pearl Harbour realistic battle event before, so I thought I'd give it a go. The event appears to take place just as the second attack wave of Japanese aircraft reaches Pearl Harbour. You're already under attack. Look at that. Okay, we have to cover the ships from attack. It's P-40s and... oh wow. Those explosions going off behind us. There are already dive bombers in the air. The ships are taking a pounding. Now, I did not expect to see as many AI in this realistic battle event as there were, and it's something I want to talk about towards the end of the video. See the second wave coming in there in front of us. So the Americans have P-40s, P-36 Hawks and PB-1 Catalinas, and the Japanese have the A6M20, the D3 dive bomber and the B-5 torpedo bomber. There's a whole bunch of AI D3 dive bombers approaching. You can see them over there. Haven't spotted any of the players yet. So, advantages and disadvantages. Well, I'm not expecting to see too many players in D3s or B5s. They're all going to be in A6M20s, if they have any sense. And the Zero, well, it's a lot more manoeuvrable. And unlike anything that the Americans have in this mission, the Zero has two cannons. However, the cannons only have 200 rounds of 20mm ammunition between them. After that, they're down to a pair of relatively low caliber machine guns compared to the 50 caliber machine guns that the P-40 has. The P-40 also has a lot more ammunition, and it's a lot more durable, and it's much better in a dive. It's a heavier aircraft. It's got more spars in the wings than comparable fighters of the same era, which meant the wings of this thing were very tough. But I think it's the ammunition load that's going to be the deciding factor in this realistic battle event, because the longer this thing goes on, the greater the chance that the Zeros are going to run out of cannon ammo, and the P-40s and the P-36s, because the P-36 also gets a 50 caliber machine gun and a lot of ammunition for it. The longer this fight goes on, the worse the situation is going to be for the Zeros. But we can't ignore the AI, the D3s, because if we lose our ships, it's game over. So we have to divert our attention between the dive bombers that are going for the ships and the Zeros that are going for us. And we've just spotted our first bunch of Zeros, and there is a guy in a D3A1. There's a player down there dive bombing the ships in Battleship Row in a D3. I didn't expect to see that. But there's our closest A6M2, and as long as he is heavily outnumbered here, let's see if we can help out a wingman here. Oh, I got an assist on that D3. Hopefully this guy will be tunnel visioning in on the P-40 in front of him, and he's not going to be paying much attention to me. Slotting in behind him, scored some hits, nothing critical. More hits, again, nothing critical. He's still going after that other P-40. There's another one coming in, he's trying to invert. He's never going to pull out of that. Yep, there's an assist. So, kept wingman alive, and oh, there's... well, actually, there's more than one of them behind me. There's two of them behind me, and I start to take a couple of hits, but the P-40 can take a beating. And there are more than enough friendlies around here to take care of anything on my back, which is why I stayed with the pack rather than getting stuck in. Man, this was an intense fight. Everybody had somebody on his tail. Look at this. Okay, there's another guy. Oh, another assist. Oh, he's down. Right. This guy's just run out of friends. and got some hits. And he's gone inverted. He's got, yep, he's down. There's my first proper player kill. Nice. You can see the hammering that my wings have taken, but the P40 have very, very tough wings. Well, I have taken quite a lot of damage, and my ammunition situation could be better. And I was thinking about going for a landing, repairing and rearming, but it would be suicide with anything up to 5 zeros all buzzing around Ford Island airfield there. And there's another wave of Japanese aircraft coming in. So while I'd like to land and at least rearm my guns, ready for that next wave coming in, I'm going to have to deal with these zeros first. Again though, it's a kind of a good news, bad news situation, because I am relatively low on ammunition, but I'm probably a damn sight better off for ammo than any of the zeros. The chances are most of them have already run out of their 20mm cannon ammo, and they're going to be down to machine guns. Also, they're heavily outnumbered. The P40s and P36s have been kicking their arses. But this is where you need to start watching out, because it's just human nature that the more of a kicking a team is taking, the less of a shit the players start to give, and that can manifest in one of two ways. They either give up and just fly around waiting to die, or they get mad, they get reckless, and they start taking risks that they wouldn't normally take. And it's when you're at this stage of a battle that you've got to really start treating the enemy with a hell of a lot more respect than you would at the start of the game. And I really should have seen this coming, because this is precisely the stage of the battle when the losing team start turning into dicks. And this guy even telegraphed his intentions to me. He's not firing. He's completely out of ammunition. And I really left it too late to avoid that. But it's a crash, it's not a kill, so I should have been able to avoid it, of course. If I hadn't been so intent on killing him, I should have seen the dick move coming a mile away, but what can you do? So anyway, that's me relegated to the sidelines. I'm spectating for the rest of this battle, and it's at this point where I started to notice some issues with regards to the extensive use of AI aircraft in this particular realistic battle event. Right now, the enemy team have only got one player left alive, but there are still dozens of AI D3 dive bombers and B5 torpedo bombers left for the guys in the P40s and the P36s to farm kills on. Now this mission will end if the last player on the enemy team is shot down. But the Americans can't afford to concentrate on finding the last remaining enemy fighter pilot, because if those battleships get nuked by the D3 dive bombers and B5 torpedo bombers, the AI, then the Japanese team can still win. Before I go on, however, I feel like I should go on record as saying that I think it's very brave of Gaijin to make such extensive use of AI in multiplayer battle events as they have, particularly with regards to this Pearl Harbour event. Because as soon as you start throwing a lot of AI in, you start running the risk of seriously pissing the players off, because nobody likes to get killed by the AI in a multiplayer game. And it doesn't matter if that's the AI tail gunner of a B-17 or a AAA battery, or the AI gunners of a destroyer when you're lining up your torpedo bomber for an attack run. Getting killed by the AI in a multiplayer game sucks. And so Gaijin really do have to balance this sort of thing very, very carefully, so that the AI isn't too strong. It needs to be about the players, not the AI. Now, the flip side of that is that this Pearl Harbour event wouldn't be nearly as exciting and immersive as it is if they hadn't thrown in a whole bunch of different AI aircraft to simulate that second wave of Japanese bombers coming in from the Japanese carrier strike force. You wouldn't have this level of immersion if they hadn't used as much AI as they have. But the danger's always going to exist in a multiplayer game, that when you start throwing in this amount of AI, and the AI is entirely capable of winning the mission for you. Remember, the Americans can still lose if all of these dive bombers and torpedo bombers knock out the ships in Battlefield Row. That when there is one pilot left on the enemy team, all he has to do is hide in the corner of the map and wait for the AI to win the mission for him. If there were no AI in this event, then all those P40s and P36s would be spreading out across all four corners of the map, looking for this lone surviving Japanese pilot, because kill him and it's mission over. But because there is so much AI, they can't do that. They have to take care of these dive bombers and torpedo bombers, otherwise they're going to lose their battleships, and they're going to lose. So they can't concentrate on winning the game. Remember, this is a multiplayer game. So we're actually in the absurd situation in what's supposed to be a multiplayer game where the players can't afford to go looking for the enemy players, because if they don't kill the AI, they're going to lose. And it's this kind of balancing act. And I'm not judging the Japanese pilot. The lone surviving Japanese pilot doesn't really have any choice. If he tries to go up against all of these P-40s and P-36s, he's going to lose. He's outnumbered something like 8-1. So his only chance to get a win here is to game the system and stay hidden. Nobody knows where he is. He could be hiding in the corner of the map. He could be 7 kilometers up. Nobody has any idea. And I'm not really judging the Japanese player. It's not his fault that the event has been set up in such a way that his best chance of winning is to not play. It's absurd, but that is the only chance he has left. He has to hide from the players in a multiplayer game and let the AI win it for him. While we're on the subject of the AI, those dots that you can see in the sky, 6 kilometers up, those are B5N2 torpedo bombers. Can I just ask, which genius at Gaijin was responsible for those spawning at an altitude of 6 kilometers? At this point, we're 10 minutes into this event, and every single one of these American P-40s and P-36s at some point is going to have had to land. If not to repair the aircraft, then they're going to have run out of ammunition. We're 10 minutes in. So you're sitting there on the ground at Ford Island, and the final wave of AI appears 6 kilometers above you. 5.5 kilometers too high to actually use their torpedoes. So much fail. But, it's easy for me to sit here on YouTube and just laugh and poke fun at the way Gaijin have implemented this. And, there are things to laugh at and there are things to poke fun at, but at least they've tried. You wouldn't be able to have just 15 players against 15 players, as in the arcade Pearl Harbour ground strike map. It's fun, but it's not Pearl Harbour. An event on this scale, you have to include AI. You have to have massed waves of D3 dive bombers and B5 torpedo bombers. It would help if the B5 torpedo bombers spawned at the correct altitude. That's something that Gaijin can fix, and they can fix that easily. What's going to be significantly trickier to fix is trying to set up the AI behaviour and numbers in such a way that the game doesn't become about beating the AI or using the AI to win for you. And that kind of balancing is significantly harder to do because players are players. You give the player a choice of going after 8 enemy fighters and killing them all in order to win, or just avoiding combat, hiding, and waiting for the AI to do it for him. They're going to wait for the AI to do it for them. The trick, when you're using such a large amount of AI as they are in the Pearl Harbour event, is setting up the parameters of the game so that that doesn't become an option, and that is one hell of a balancing act to pull off successfully, so good luck to Gaijin with that one. But I do have to salute them for at least trying. I mean, they're not there yet, but they're having a go, and there is nowhere else that you can take part in this kind of massive aerial combat event. They're simulating the attack on Pearl Harbour. I mean, where else can you do that on this kind of scale? So hats off to Gaijin for at least having a go. And hats off too to the lone remaining Japanese player in this Pearl Harbour realistic battle event, who has gotten tired of being a pussy and hiding in the corner of the map, and there he goes. And plot twist, the AI kills him. Oh, the irony. Anyway, the point of today's video, if there is a point, is that it is great that Gaijin are using AI to give these realistic battle events a sense of scale and immersion that just wouldn't be possible if it was just 15 players versus 15 players. But before we all start getting carried away with ourselves and patting ourselves on the back at how many aircraft we can cram on screen at the same time, let's not lose track of the fact that this is supposed to be a multiplayer game. And try to make sure that we set up these events so that the focus of the action is on the players, killing the other players and not avoiding each other and letting the AI do the dirty work for them. As always, folks, watch your six, and I'll catch you next time.